Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Teresa Michelson. I'm the Director of the Counseling Center here at Embry-Riddle in the Daytona Beach campus. So thank you for joining me. We're going to talk a little bit about understanding mental health, emotional well-being, and the pandemic. So substantial increases in mental health struggles have been in the news over the past year. I know we've all seen the stories. And the expectation is that this will continue to significantly increase in the coming months. During the pandemic, about 4 in 10 adults in the U.S. have reported symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorder. This is up from 1 in 10 adults who reported these symptoms from January to June in 2019. So the rates of depression, anxiety, substance use, domestic violence, eating issues, sleep issues, motivational struggles, they've all increased significantly during this time. But the group that has seen the highest increase is the young adults, those ages 18 to 24 years old. But be aware, the pandemic has not hit all Americans equally. The communities hit the hardest are the ones that are the most vulnerable and marginalized, and have the most barriers to accessing these resources. Overall, people have experienced a tremendous amount of grief and loss. So what can we expect in the coming months? While this pandemic has been unprecedented in many ways, we can use history as a guide. History tells us there is often a delay until the full psychological and emotional impacts will be known. There is often a honeymoon phase. Some communities have been impacted more drastically, not just by the loss of life, but also economically. These communities have already seen higher rates of suicide and other mental health struggles. We are likely to see an increase in behavioral issues and misunderstandings. We've already seen this in increases in road rage and, sadly, the national homicide rates. So along with increasing our resources, normalizing talking about mental health and reducing the stigma will be critical during this time. The good news, we are resilient. A new bubble will eventually form, and in the meantime, let's practice grace and understanding towards each other, as everyone will vary in how long this process will take for them. So everyone's baseline around their anxiety is higher than normal right now. Most are, have been, and will continue to be emotionally and physically exhausted. I know I have felt this in my day-to-day activities, and I know others have. This is burnout, and burnout is prevalent. Understanding that everything is not going to be back to normal. Anytime we've had an historical event happen, we've seen that it's been incredibly difficult to kind of get back to that place of normal again. So just kind of understanding that we may not ever get back to that normal, but we will establish a new normal. Our social skills are incredibly rusty right now. We are all having very awkward moments with each other, and that's to be expected considering the amount of time that we've had to isolate. We've been staying inside more often. We're not engaging with others, so our social skills are rusty, and we're going to have awkward moments. Our memories and sense of time have been impacted. It all feels like one big giant blur. So again, just kind of validating that experience, that feeling that people have been having through their day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month experiences. Our trust that our community will do what is needed to protect each other has been eroded. There are those who feel very strongly about this. And recognizing all this is important, valid, and needed for us to understand each other. We are all going through this together, but maybe having very different experiences. So burnout, it's not just a phrase. So let's talk about it a bit more. So signs of stress can be characterized by overengagement. Emotions can be overreactive. We produce urgency and hyperactivity. There can be a loss of energy. The primary damage is the physical part. We feel that in our body. And then we know that science and medicine has shown that when we are under high amounts of stress, it can actually cause a lot of health conditions and may kill you prematurely. So signs of burnout can be characterized by disengagement, not being engaged as much as you once were. Emotions are blunt. We're just kind of in that flat affect, just kind of coasting or floating, not really being engaged or feeling like we've got some kind of solid foundation. Produces helplessness and hopelessness, like we feel without there knowing there's an end to all this, we can feel like we're just, again, kind of going through the motions and feeling a little helpless around some of the things that are happening around us. There can be a loss of motivation, some ideals, and even hope. The primary damage is emotional. We are feeling this on an emotional level, which is very different than the physical. May make life seem not worth living. Again, there's that sense of hopelessness when things are going to get better, and there's just a lack of enthusiasm, energy, or happiness that can be present, not present when somebody's experiencing burnout. So, setting some realistic expectations during this time. It is unrealistic to expect yourself to be functioning at a pre-pandemic level. Again, this kind of goes back to that, give yourself some grace and patience. The ups and downs of the pandemic are real, and we are all living in real time as it continually evolves. There are those who are experiencing re-entry fear, kind of coming out of that cave. It's to be expected. We've been isolating and socially distancing for so long. I think it's normal to have that experience. We are creatures of habit, so for some, the bubble of safety that is our home has been wonderful, but for others, it's been a tremendous struggle. And it's important to realize that not everyone experienced the pandemic in similar ways, particularly our Black, Indigenous, people of color, also known BIPOC, and other marginalized communities. At this time, it's important to pace yourself and do your best to ease back if needed. And again, just be kind to yourself and to others during a time when we are all under a tremendous amount of stress. So the principle of charity. The principle of charity is a philosophical principle that indicates when interpreting someone's statements or behaviors, you should do your best to assume that the best possible interpretation of these is your starting point. This is also known as giving someone the benefit of the doubt. I know it's easier said than done, and sometimes the person will prove you wrong, but it will help you immensely to do your best to make this your default setting anytime you are engaging with another. So self-care and the return to campus. Self-care is often overlooked during times of trauma and high anxiety, and it's the time that we need it the most. Self-care should be scheduled, not just done when you have time. It requires a conscientious commitment to a self-care plan. It's important to remember it's okay to not be okay right now. And just start with the basics, making sure you're getting enough sleep, that you're resting, that you're staying hydrated. Ease back into the situation. We need to rebuild our social skills and build up tolerance for social situations again. Set a routine for yourself that includes regular self-care. Focus on what we can control versus what we can't. Stick to your regular schedule. Comfort is often found in routines. There's wonderful science and research around the practice of habits and routine and how much they really help us regulate and stay focused. So being in groups of people and around a lot of other people will be challenging for many at first, particularly those who identify as being introverts. Again, pace yourself and take breaks as needed. A big piece of this re-entry part is going to be increasing your self-awareness around what your thresholds are and what you can tolerate. Have set times during the day when you recharge and have some quiet time. Those times are going to be incredibly important for us to sustain your energy levels. Focus on some of the positives of returning. For example, seeing missed colleagues or getting to interact with students again and just being on campus. Take time to reflect on what you've been through and what you are still going through right now. And again, embrace the awkwardness. We are all a bit rusty right now. It's going to take a little while for us to re-engage and to have those moments again where we're feeling connected with each other. So one way to do this is to practice mindfulness. It's a wonderful technique that helps us get grounded in those moments and become just, again, increasing our self-awareness of what might be happening within our emotions, within our body, throughout the day. People recommend doing this 3 times a day, in the morning, maybe midday, at lunchtime, and then again in the evening to kind of close out your day. And things that you can do during this mindfulness moment is breathing exercises, doing some yoga or meditation, body scans or guided visualizations, journaling and self-reflection are incredibly helpful. Regular exercise and healthy eating, but don't beat yourself up around this too much. It's going to be hard to kind of stick with these right now, and that's for real. So when it comes to all of these kind of tips, there are some wonderful free apps that will help with a lot of these, including the guided visualizations, the body scanning, and those mindful minutes. So definitely check those out on your smartphones or devices. So engage in leisure activities regularly. Things that you enjoy doing on a regular basis, like reading your favorite author, binge watching your favorite show, cuddling with your pets, etc. And don't feel guilty about taking the time to do that. There is no such thing as wasting time. Self-care is necessary and well worth your time. The importance of reconnecting with others. Again, start slow, shake off the rust, and then go at your own pace. And again, don't feel guilty. Connections are so very necessary to our mental health. Use resources that are available to you, such as talking to a professional, talking to a loved one, talking to a spiritual advisor, finding someone that you can kind of connect with, and really rely on your social system. And again, don't feel guilty asking for help. You don't have to be alone as you're kind of re-entering and processing all of this, and as we're trying to recalibrate to what this new normal is going to look like. So know your limits and your early warning signs of burnout. Again, that self-reflection every day, the journaling, that's really going to help you kind of stay aware in those moments of how you're feeling and what's kind of getting you through the day, or where you're really struggling. And when you identify those early warning signs, we can attend to them sooner so that they don't begin to spiral out of control and put you in a darker place. So find a balance in what types of news you consume and try to keep a really healthy perspective. So again, the information that we're being fed on a regular basis, we really need to kind of balance that out. So if we're feeling kind of down or feeling frustrated about any negative news that we might be hearing, it's going to be incredibly important to counter that with some positive stories or some positive interactions. So make sure that you do integrate some of those moments as well. Practice good sleep, hygiene, exercise, and try to eat a balanced diet. So those are all incredibly important to your body being able to engage and function the way that you want it to. Unplug. Use nature and quiet spaces to help re-energize you. And again, talk with your support system. It's going to be incredibly important for you to realize that you're not alone in this, that there are others who are struggling as well. And sometimes when we can connect with people in that way and have those shared experiences, it can be really validating and supportive. So making sure that you talk with your support systems. So I know this sounds kind of kooky, but anxiety can be your buddy. So some amount of anxiety is healthy for us. There's a part of our brain called the amygdala, which is tied to the whole fight or flight response that we have when we're under stress. So it is part of our nature and part of our biology to help protect us and help us stay more alert to what's happening in our surroundings. So it is meant to keep you safe. So try to identify what might be causing the anxiety for you in that particular situation. And then during those anxious moments, think about times when maybe you've gone through that in the past. And think about what had got you through that. What was it that got you through that really difficult time? Was it the support of others? Was it the journaling? Was it, you just kind of pushed through it and eventually the anxiety began to kind of quiet. So again, think about what it is that has gotten you through those difficult times in the past. Don't minimize or make yourself feel bad for experiencing stress or anxiety. Again, it's a very natural, normal part of our everyday experiences. We all have that throughout the day. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you unable to do your job. It's just a natural reaction, a natural feeling that we have at times when something is triggered or something elicits that feeling. So again, don't experience it necessarily as being a bad thing. You can acknowledge a thought or feeling without giving it any power. So essentially what that means is that you can feel anxious, you can feel under stress, but you don't have to let that hold you back. There are ways for us to kind of quiet that on a cognitive level that allows us to get through whatever action we need to kind of get through. So you can challenge any negative or anxious thoughts when they appear to be irrational. And sometimes when we are referring to this, those are called cognitive thinking errors. So it's important to really kind of challenge yourself and challenge your negative thinking, especially when you're experiencing that anxiety or that stress. And again, journaling is a great tool to really kind of help unpack that, to really kind of dig deep into what those emotions are for yourself and find ways to really kind of work through that. So let's take a moment to just kind of reflect and at your own pace. Take a moment right now and write out maybe a few things that may have resonated with you as I was speaking. Write out a few things that you can do today to practice some self-care. And then let's take this a little bit further. Write out a few more things that you can do this week that might help you integrate more self-care into your daily activities. And then let's think about this even more long-term. What can you do this semester to really kind of help support you during this first semester back? So remember to practice grace and the principle of charity. They're incredibly important to help kind of give you a foundation of how you are feeling about yourself and those particular experiences and how you can interact with others. Again, coming from that place of principle of charity, giving someone the benefit of the doubt. So a big one to be aware of is that you are not alone. There are many others who are experiencing this, and what you are feeling, what you're going through are valid and real. So seek help and support from others as and when needed. There's nothing wrong with that. We all need times when we can really use the support of somebody else. So definitely use your resources in ways to really kind of help you get through these challenges. So that kind of wraps it up. Thank you again for taking the time to listen in and get a better understanding of some of the things that might be going on right now for yourself and for others. And again, as a resource, just a reminder, you can certainly connect with the Counseling Center for consultation and for services if you are a student. So thank you very much. Take care.